Good evening, Free Enterprise viewers, and welcome to tonight's season finale of the Music Appreciation Club. Our featured runner today are the club captain Side Marshal and Xenocat. Joining me in the restream team today, we have Neon Gray handling the restream, Ripon Quest pushing the buttons today. I am S-Grunt, and joining me in the comments with today is Deathlike. How are you doing today, Deathlike?
Doing well. The weather is actually good, so that means good, wonderful harp music. That's all you're looking for, and it's all I'm after, right?
Well, we can certainly hope for the wonderful harp music in this, as with this season finale flag set, band festival, I believe is the name. We have hard required harp as is traditional for the club, and we have a series of tournament level objectives and flags ready to challenge our racers tonight. This is a flag set which has been designed with many things like T-Pro, be unsafe, meaning that the ugliest bosses can guard underground access, and many other challenging flags here. So we should be in for an interesting time.
I'm excited for Be Unsafe, the flag where, hey, did you want your lovely Joker of sorts and strongest bosses covering required hook? Well, they will show up this time.
So it's certainly going to be possible for Golbez to get the last laugh here, so to speak.
On top of that, we've got that also makes Wyvern by default won't allow using really strong magic like Meteo or some other destructive spell. That is they are available because Be Unsafe is also unlocking. So basically, full Blarg potential.
Yeah. If you thought that Mega Nuke was the worst thing that Wyvern can be to your party, we got news for you. Hopefully, our research won't actually see that on their part at least, but it'll certainly make for an interesting time.
Yeah. So I think with that, with Edward start, hoping for some smooth early sailing, hoping for a decent partner. But on top of that, I think some of the objectives are interesting. Baron Castle can hope maybe get an early Baron key, especially with this flag set where a hook is required. You have it try if we can pick up a few overworld objectives, it will make the journey to the underground a little bit easier.
Now, as it happens, we've got a set of mostly overworld objectives here. It could well be that we never need to go down into the Fey Marsh. We do need the hook one way or the other, just because of the rat tail. But other than that, we can as long as we get the pan underground, we don't actually really need to do anything else underground if that plays out.
So, and the magma key will, I'm sure, pop up on the moon just because you need underground access after the fact.
Yeah, well, maybe if we find an early darkness crystal, we won't find the magma key on the moon. Because with that forced hook flag on, it is guaranteed that something underground is what's getting the magma key.
Yeah.
So let's see where that turns out.
Yeah. So I think there's we have no free characters, so we'll definitely visit our favorite place, Mount Hobbs, for the free character, and take a little later dip into Barrett Inn for the two bosses for the character. So
while we're on the subject of no free things, we've got no free key items on. That means that Edward and Troya will not have a key item for us. We will be on the hunt for that D-Mist, which will hold a key item for us upon returning to Mist Village.
For the having a character, like the second character, I personally prefer Palom, or the starting character, but whatever. Edward is the star of the show, but Palom will make things a lot easier. I mean, there's probably next best maybe a Kane.
Yeah, just based on the flag set, we won't be seeing Cecil or Edge or Fu as any of the characters. But really, in my view, you can make most of the supporting second characters work from a start like this. Certainly, you'd love to find someone like Palom early, just to get Palom up to that early experience to get you up to a point where you can start quaking through things. But Having a starting white mage would be a good thing. Having a starting Kayn would be good for the extra attack power. You could argue that Sid would be useful in that same way as well. Even maybe Tala, if you have a reasonable enough time with Ordeals and you've got enough support from the other characters you can find early, would be viable as well. Alright, and we should be underway here in just a moment, so we'll get to answer that question as to who will be joining our resident Spoony Bard as our second starting character today.
Maybe today, someone will be generous and donate a spoon. Spoon is on. And who doesn't love their Spoony Barn?
Yeah, well, you'd all love to get the starting spoon in this flag set. It's not going to happen very often. It certainly can happen. There's Rosa as our second character. As I was just saying, it's always a good time to have a white mage as an early accompanying character. We've got the package as our starting key item. That opens up another character checking principle right away, as well as a boss check. And we've got a Mylon as one of the bosses in Baron Castle, who we are going to need to go through for that Baron objective at some point.
Yeah, rarely do you ever get the package for the second, for the essentially the fifth character. Like you'll get your Hobbs, you'll get your Baron in, but having essentially a fifth character may be worth going immediately. And it looks like Sky has decided, I want that character. It doesn't matter who. Unless may not be desirable, we'll might reset. Hey, it's an edge. That's gonna pay off pretty quickly, especially time saved with edge. Usually dominating the overworld with high agility, and will probably be the immediate anchor, at least until we get to the hook route.
Yeah, there aren't necessarily very many characters that you would want to sit through the entire package cutscene for, but Edge is certainly fairly high on that list of characters that you would be willing to sit through this cutscene for and pick up.
It looks the Xenocat's taking going the loot route. The waterway is pretty lucrative. Higher chance of getting. I think of a lot of the places you get an opportunity at a tier 6 item, which at this stage of the game, pretty beneficial.
Yeah, it's not an uncommon starting play in this day and age. A lot of the time, I find that people wait until they have an exit caster, and so will be able to loot just a little bit more when entering Watery Pass if they're looking for that. That was Sid that we saw in the bed in Kaipo. So maybe know what our racers are looking for. But if that Sand Ruby does turn up, we do have the option of picking up that Sid.
Yeah, looks like we're doing some little shopping. Some decent items, I think some silk webs are on the table at the Kaipo shop, which can serve well for now and even endgame. Figuring out who the boss is, but looks like so Skype is continuing on, and we will find out our first boss of the night. Shouldn't be too bad. The spot will have decent HP, but won't punch too badly, so no worries there.
Well, it might be a little bit of a problem depending on who shows up here. That's either Ruby or Elements. It is Ruby. We don't have a lot of attack power here, and Sideweshel is choosing to treat Eddie as the resident anchor tonight, but the attack power of Ruby here is low enough, and the HP is low enough that Rosa can just kill him in one shot.
Had didn't kill Ruby in the first shot. The common fire 2 you normally get, so aim will avoid that, which is a nice thing.
Yeah, only directly reacts to the fight command for those fire 2 counters. We do see Xenocat also in Mist Village, also seemingly keen on picking up that edge. It's certainly something I would be doing under the circumstances. I love my edge starts.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't exactly a start, but we've already heard all the reasons why you would want to have edge early, and you can blow up the overworld with him fairly easily.
It doesn't take much. Just get 2 knives, and edge is all set. Even if it's 2 silver knives, edge will be doing a lot of the damage. But you also get decent AOE with flame, so it's good enough for even for at least one of the 3 trap chests in Evelyn Castle. Probably be visiting that to power up Edge or other characters, and getting them XP to do things.
One of the most common things that I find myself using Flame for with an early Edge is if an early alt gauntlet turns up, it's very good at clearing out most of the waves of the alt gauntlet. Of course, Edge is going to have fairly limited MP, well, XP as well, but mostly limited MP, so you're probably not going to be able to hit all of them, but it's still very useful to do that. Scythe Marshal is now in Mist Cave, presumably looking for that D-Mist boss hunt. Only finds a Bahamut in there. Chooses to reset out.
Yeah, but this is a kind of an early D-Mist hunt, as D-Mist is not required. It's kind of can hold a important gated key item, so it's one of those it's one of those we'll peek, see if it's worth the time, and sometimes some racers like looting Mist Cave as a follow up to defeating the boss.
Well, it's very easy to get at the very least that one chest which is sitting directly below where the boss is sitting. But it could well be that D-Mist, whenever D-Mist turns up, has a very important key item, or could have nothing important at all. Certainly I've seen my share of Falcon % seats, for example, where the hook is on D-Mist, and D-Mist is hiding somewhere. So that's CPU sitting in the Waterfall Cave. Scythe Marshal resets out of that as well.
Yeah, no one. A CPU anywhere is a slow burn, but probably also not worth getting the treasure, even if you want to. I think it's actually kind of tanky position, even with an Edge.
Yeah. So Xenocat is now looting the back of Watery Pass and actually found 2 Thunderclaws in rapid suggestion. With that Edge in hand is going to be very useful for if we see an Odin, if we see Kainatsu possibly, or if we see a Leviathan as bosses. Edge with the right sword and that Thunderclaw in hand can hit extremely hard.
Yeah, if you need a punch mage, Thunderclaw is always great. I think there's a lot of bosses vulnerable to Thunderclaw, so it's always a useful thing. And I think Hobbs had the Vanilla Hang with a Plague, and that was an immediate reset for Scythe, because was Edge even in the anchoring spot? Because you do not want Edge facing a Plague. That usually bad things happen.
Yeah, usually bad things happen. It's not impossible. You can do some very interesting strategies. Oh, there's our D-Mist in Antlion Cave. So we're not going to have to look very hard to see what that extra key item that D-Mist gets us is going to be. That's very convenient.
It shouldn't take too long. Eddie, I think we're gonna keep Edward down. This is the theme. So I guess Scythe has said, "Hey, Edward, can you take a nap? We'll let you sing when you need to sing. Just, today's nap day. Oh, hey, and the key item that we need."
The required bearing key. That's going to lead us directly into one of our objectives. Meanwhile, Xenocat is also setting up to enter Xenocat is actually going up Hobbs first. With all of those claws in hand, and that includes the Charm Claw that we found in Waterfall Cave, I wonder if that'll render into a decision for to take this Young here. And we do see Xenocat going into that fight with Edge in the anchor spot. A lot of the time you don't want to have a fast anchor for a Plague fight, just because that implies that your characters are going to get less turns and that count goes down faster. As it turns out, this is one of the spots where Edge can just deal enough damage quickly enough to kill Plague before he even gets count out. But there are some interesting things you can do, like if Edge is fast enough to put up a Star Veil right away, for example, you can just wait for the Star Veil to run out, and then Plague will die very shortly after the next count. It's something that I've done a few times. It's actually a very interesting technique.
Yeah, count works on the boss, and it's also reflectable. So it's one of those fun things. You can kind of manipulate the boss to either get the boss to die to count, or just kind of lock the boss into repeat count, because the check to apply count is is everyone on undercount? So
Yeah.
it kind of locks them into place, and Scythe is picking up the key item from the Demist drop.
And it is a hook. We need that hook for 2 reasons, because it's our underground access, guaranteed, and it's also going to be needed to turn on the rat tail. Xenocat is now also in the Demus fight. We're going to see Demus is going to get in possibly as few as 0 hits here, just because of the overwhelming speed advantage of having Edge in the anchor spot.
Yeah.
No hits.
I mean, when you have that's the advantage of having Edge early. Pretty much you'll get a turn or 2 before the boss will, and that can be valuable, especially you want to just take care of the boss as soon as possible.
Yeah, Edge will easily outspeed most of the bosses in the overworld. He's very good at that, and can generally hit hard enough to also defeat them in 1 or 2 hits.
Yeah, the strength bonus comes from dual wielding, so even if he had 2 claws, there'll be strength bonus associated with that, so there will be some power. Most of the power really does come from the dual wielding, even while the weapons are not as strong, but just dual wielding effective compared to most characters will double the effective damage, the attack power bonus.
Yeah, makes him a very good character to give, like, say, Strength Ring or a Zeus Gauntlet to. So in the meanwhile, Side Marshal is now in Baron. He's going to do the Baron in check first. Sensible. We might have a key item here that we need. That's a Sparkle sitting in the first boss spot, and that is a Palom, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, I said Palom, even though I'm thinking of Porum. We'll get another look in a moment here. It is Porum. Okay.
I can't say no to a second white mage there.
That's a Pale Dim. Can be somewhat annoying to find Elsar, but dies in 1 hit by means of Edge. It's another Sparkle in the second boss spot, and it's the D-Lunars. So, speaking of Flame, Flame is going to be very effective against the D-Lunars here. You generally don't want to hit them with physical attacks, simply because it's going to set off their virus counters, and even here, that's going to hurt quite a little bit.
Probably this, the magic power at this spot is kind of non-existent because it's karate, so karate, their spell power non-existent, but but
extremely punchy though.
It is very punchy. But hey, pass certainly worth the wait. Not a key item that will gate anything, but hey, having it early is peace of mind.
Yeah, well, the pass isn't even a key item, but it's still something which is very nice to have early. You don't need to worry about walking down the moon if necessary. It gives you different running options when you actually do get to the moon later if you need to go there. Of course, Side Marshal with the Baron key in hand is now checking the Baron shops. There are ninja swords in that shop. That's going to be it's going to be expensive, but it'll be very enticing with that early Edge in hand to eventually come back and pick some of those up if we don't find any.
Kind of interesting though. They're right now. I mean, I'm sure that it feels like the follow-up to this is to complete Baron Castle, at least the part where you defeat the Baigen spot and the Kanaza spot, and skip the Odin spot. But what might actually happen? We might accidentally or intentionally fade Ordeals, since we've done all the boss checks. So and we have the hook. So whatever is on Ordeals it's not going to be like Magna Key. So, but it still might be a key item that we might need later on. So we'll see, I guess, if it's something. But right now, I think Ordeals might be the current fade.
Yeah, I think a significant part of that decision, at least on my part, would be who's the character pickup that we're going to get in Baron. If it's a Cecil, if it's a Cecil especially, I would be interested in doing Ordeals sooner rather than later. If it's Tella, I would consider it. If it's anyone else, probably not.
I think this seed is given a lot of early characters. We don't usually get package and Baron Key this early. And the other one would be Zot for the 2 characters. So we're gonna have a full party. Usually, not all hook seeds will have this kind of opportunity to get a full party to tackle on whoever is gating the underground.
Yeah,
So,
the other thing, of course, is that since this is the required hook route, we will get another character pickup on the way down hook route, so that might also factor into that decision. In any case, both of our racers look like they're doing a little bit of looting as they head through the sewers here, looting in different places. Side Marshal chooses to take the save point just before exiting into Baron Castle proper. We might not see Xenocat do that. We don't. It's not often that we see that unless we question whether or not we're going to be able to get through those early bosses. But we do remember that's one of the Mylons in this boss spot, so we'll see who it is in just a couple of moments. With that edge in hand, this is not going to be a very difficult fight. If it's Mylon and friends, we can cast Flame to get rid of the minions, and it is Mylon and friends, so we're going to see a Flame cast here. This should take out the ghasts.
The kind of the nuisance part is Mylon trying to shock everyone with Lightning Wand, because there's only one shock spell, and Lightning Wand happens to be it.
Yeah. Mylon counters basically anything with Litwin here. The only other thing you're going to see at this point in the fight is the very occasional punch from Mylon, which can hurt quite a bit.
I don't think it's
spots.
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's not too threatening at this spot, the Belgian spot. I think the body punches the hardest, and it's probably not. I don't remember it to being too scary. I think it's what's next could be more interesting. Right now, they'll take care of it. I think we're trying. I'm not sure if we're gonna keep Rosa. We're gonna keep Porum. The only reason why is Rosa needs Zot to complete Zot to get exit. Porum is the only one in this current party to naturally learn exit. So unless we want to go keep 2 white mages for double berserk.
It's certainly possible. There are other reasons you might want to keep 2 white mages in your party. If you've got a heavy physical boss, having 2 blink casters is going to be tremendously useful. If you have trouble finding Bacchus Swines, having the berserk cast is going to be very useful as well. And if we need to grind long and hard enough, we might even get 2 white casters for Zeromus. I'm sure our racers are probably not hoping that that's going to be necessary unless we get several black mages to accompany them, but it is a possibility. But Xenocat is now in the throne room and finds Octomammoth, having taken the Barbarian today.
So Sky took the time to redo the agility. Looks like Porum just came in late, so she should be the lowest. Although I think could have used Edward, but maybe just wanted to use Porum. Probably wouldn't make too much of a difference at this point. Her being low leveled.
So, about those Thunder Claws we found, Octomammoth is very weak to Thunder. We're going to see Jan hit for a lot of damage here in just a moment.
Yeah, Edge doing decent damage. Yang needs a little extra boost from charging. Double damage is good, although it makes him a little bit weaker if he gets punched back while charging it up. So, but still, the damage is worth the time spent to charge up, and also doesn't trigger attack counters. So, which is the most useful property of that.
Yeah, most bosses will only counter on the direct usage of the fight command when they're countering physical attacks. The major exception to that is Mylon and Friends, who counters everything, of course. So having commands like that Power Punch, or Dart, or Arcane's Jump, or Aim even, is very useful to counter that. Now there's our early Palom. Speaking of black mages, Xenocat is a full party right now. Gets rid of the Bard, makes me in favor of taking Palom.
Spoiler alert, or maybe not. Possible surprise. Maybe there's a spoon after this. The moment you eat the Bard, the spoon might actually come immediately.
Well, if the spoon does turn up here in Baron, Side Marshal is going to be very happy about that, having not taken that Yang earlier. Actually, just outright accepts the Palom into their party. Doesn't have to get rid of anyone in order to do that. But let's see what our Baron item is as we get our first objective on the board for both of our Eastern members. It is the Adamant Rock. Half of Forge, not something which is necessary for the objectives on this flag set. And I believe that it is just standard forward. Or is it alt forward? Or is it Super Smith?
Yeah, Super Smith, tailored to building a super weapon for any character, although
Yeah,
it can be
is
any
Super
character might not be in the siege, so that is just as well. So there's no sea hero, so if there was sea hero, we would have a dedicated, a known super weapon, at least Super Smith weapon. Hey, this is free.
Yeah, the Baron guards here, they're going to hit hard, but they are, being one of the regular enemy bosses, are vulnerable to a wide variety of things here. If you've got an hourglass, you can stop them. If you've got coffins, you can instantly kill them. We've got none of those right now, but that's going to be very important for us to know later. I do see a question in chat that we've missed for a few minutes. What is the Music Appreciation Club? The Music Appreciation Club is the club is themed around, appreciating music, as you might imagine. Basically, all of the flag sets in this club for this season have starred Edward as our starting character and have featured clearing cave magnes and doing the harp check as a required objective. So, for anyone who loves doing the harp check, appreciating the various tunes that Xenocat and Conlamity have put into the game, a very large number of them by now, it's a very enjoyable club.
Yeah, it's a lot of many video game tunes. Pretty good chance you'll recognize one out of the various number. It's over 400. It's hard to keep count. I just know it's a lovely tune and worth the moment to spend just listening to it. Looks like Xeno has decided. I would like to. I want to see what's on Ordeals. Scythe is decided. Let's Evelyn Splunk now.
Well, Evelyn Castle, on certain treasure settings like T Wildish especially, will have to be very lucrative in terms of looting. Considerably less so on the T Pro that the seed features, but there's still a chance that you'll pick up a high tier item here as a result of going through this. I wonder if this is more of an intent of taking the trap chest to build some experience for the party, because as we said earlier, with the edge in hand, it's going to be very easy to take some of at least one of the trap chests in here. Xenocat, meanwhile, finds Valis as the first boss on Ordeals. There are certainly worse places that Val could turn up here than here.
Yeah, this isn't too bad a spot. We still have Thunderclaw, not need any more, not a weakness of this version of Val. Although Val I think you can use magic on the spot.
Yeah, I believe this is one of the spots where Val can show up, where Val does not have significant magic defense in this form. You can still see that Val has the physical evasion. That's not a problem with Rosa and Aim, of course. So Rosa's actually out-damaging our other two physical attackers here right now.
Yeah, Aim has special property of Aim is setting accuracy to essentially the maximum possible. So it's not gonna matter how much evasion, and actually it sets the evasion of the enemy to 0. So that's why it cuts through it's pretty sharp.
Yeah, and we did see Val was finished off by a twin cast from both of the twins in the party here. So yes, Val does not have magic defense in tornado form in this spot.
Scythe is taking on the Black Hat Lamia, not triggering the charm through Aim. Scythe's Edge has enough attack power to one-shot the Black Hats. As Black Hats, when they're hit, will counter with Bluster, 50-50 chance paralysis. The other 50 is instant death, and usually those are very tough. It's usually a tough counter to handle if it's actually instant death applied upon one random character.
Yes, and Demas, I believe, had the Baron key.
Demas had the hook.
Demas had the hook.
Yeah.
You got... Thank you, Ribbon. Ribbon, of course, is paying more attention to what our racers are doing than we are right now, which is very good. So that was the officer in the second fight on Ordeals there. Another free fight, especially with that edge in hand, goes down very quickly. Okay, so now now Xenocat is in the mirror room in Ordeals. We're going to see in just a moment what the key item, if any, here is going to be, whether or not it was worth it going through those bosses. That's a cursed ring. While it's not a key item, it is going to be very useful for setting up anchoring later on, and that's an evil wall in the boss spot, which you're very happy to see here instead of somewhere else.
Yeah, surprise evil walls are nasty. Though we started with the Edward, so we could kind of do something, though probably not really needed. The cursed ring, though, pretty much kind of opens your character options, as you don't as you can make anyone your anchor, and you don't have to have a dead anchor.
Yeah, anchor in a pocket, if you will. Anchor in a can.
Yeah. So and I like using Palom as the anchor, cursed anchor. You have bluff to offset the penalty of the cursed ring. Cursed ring reduces all stats by 15, and bluff increases wisdom by 16. So you can kind of bluff your way out of a cursed ring penalty.
Yeah, really, who gets the cursed ring, in my experience, is going to depend on where on the seat I am, what characters I have, and sometimes no one will have it at all if I do the damage output. Like, it's not something which we're probably going to see anyone need to equip for Overworld bosses, at least, especially with that edge enhance, outspeed everything. But for late game situations, and you've got good stat boosting equipment, really anyone can serve that role. I have noticed a bit of a trend recently where this is more so in the most recent tournament, where the favorite character from the anchor spot was a white mage, just because you can offset the stat penalties with a life staff or something along those lines. And they, especially for the Zeromus fight, they don't really need the extra spirit to do anything beyond cure 4 people. Zeromus is now in Fubul, taking the Fubul defense. That's a single bro. This is Water Hag. A 3 boss sitting in this spot. It's not necessarily often that people will check the wall with underground access in hand, because you will eventually need to come back here to turn in the pan for that objective, and you may need to come back here in the interim anyway for that Sheila check, so ideally you don't want to have to be coming back here multiple times. But Xenocat is just going ahead and making the check while she's up here.
I mean, if there's a darkness crystal, it could be really spicy. I think it's just for the quick XP. And I mean, fade. Even though the pan is a requirement, trying to fade Fabul early when pan is not a requirement can happen. It has been known to happen when you fade something and forget. So, hey, it's the thing.
Speaking of the pan. Ooh, and that is a Fusoya as the character on Hook Route, complete with the Dark Imps as the Rubicante boss. Another, in principle, free boss in that spot.
Hard to reject Fu at this spot. Probably yeet a Palom or Porum. Either twin is probably the ideal yeeting target for Skype, or at least for both runners. You don't need that redundancy. And you have set of spells you might want to consider fighting more. Though Scythe probably doesn't look like to dropping out and then going to Ordeal, so that's fine.
Well, in any case, Scythe chooses to eat the Bard, as Xenocat did. Fu actually also makes for an excellent anchor with a curse ring in hand, just due to the fixed agility stat up until level 70. It goes from 20 to 5 agility, and he can, given a good, Charm Rod or Stardust Rod, with Fu's natural stats, can still put up quite a bit of black magic damage if you need him to do that.
Yeah, and mages are usually pretty good targets for the curse ring. The deal is usually you try to offset it. Like, if it's not important, obviously, like if an extra character, then more of a berserker character, like a Rosa, you can probably get away with it. Just having a stat sick to offset cursed ring is a pretty nice balance, a counterbalance, just to because that is their main stat, and you don't, and offsetting stat changes is you're not losing too much if you say have a lunar staff and the cursed ring. You're only losing 5, and 5 isn't too much. If you're dropping 10, you're probably losing a little bit more than you'd like.
Yeah. In any case, Scythe Marshal is checking chests on the way down the the upper tower, specifically looking for the Mad Ogre's chest. We see Side Marshal in that fight right now. Probably an experience play. The Life Glitches. We do see the Life Glitches coming out here as well. Although Edge hits too quickly for that last one to land.
It's interesting, kind of skip, even though it's for the XP, but skipping the kind of the Evelyn check. I think the like Evelyn Cave trap chest check.
Yeah.
The sale, which is kind of interesting. Although Mad Ogres are more susceptible. Like both monsters in those chests are giants, but Mad Ogres are additionally mages, so Mute Knife does work.
And we did see Edge hitting for over 3,000 damage with that Mute Knife in the offhand, in the main hand, I think. We did see Palom pick up Quake as a result of that fight, which may have been the objective there.
Yeah, getting Quake online early is something at least I like seeing. This is virus minimum, but Quake obviously is the goal. Because there's various bosses that you'd want to use on, like Wyvern or Mega Sisters, where Reflect Wall is in play, and you don't. And Quake ignores wall, doesn't care. So it's a very strong spell this early in the game.
Yeah, it's not for nothing that Palom is known as Quake. We see Xenocat getting rid of Edge of all characters in order to take the Fusoya. That is a very interesting choice. And that is the alt gauntlet in the King Queen Evelyn slot.
Yeah, surprise! Alt gauntlet shows up when you least expect it. But the nice thing, I guess, is you get a decent chunk of XP. That spot will provide no XP anyways. So having it at this spot is like, hey, did you want to grind? Here's your grind.
Yeah, so we might, from Side Marshal at least, we might see some of those flame tactics from Edge, but we do have Quake, we do have the Fu online now, so a fair number of fights in this specific are only a single monster anyway, so some of those area effect spells aren't going to be as useful. We do see Fu casting play here regardless, even though it's meant more as an area of effect attack, an AoE attack. We still occasionally see people using Quake on single targets just to be able to out-damage most of the other things that you can get here.
Quake is a little more than 50% stronger than Virus.
Yes.
So that's the only reason you want when you cast in Quake is because, hey, base damage higher, more damage overall. But though you don't want to use it on the Mad Ogres who have near perfect magic defense. You'll get very little out of that. So there are spells like Quake, while good, are not infallible.
Yeah, and speaking of infallible, Xenocat is also taking the Mad Ogre's fight, and is relying on that Fu to try and cast Stone on the Ogres, and has whiffed at least once despite being in the center spot. This indicates to me that this is not an experience play necessarily, so much as it is looking for what the items in the chest are, although of course, 4 Mad Ogres without any life glitches will still give you a fair amount of experience.
Looks like a Quake on Skype's part on balloons. The problem, balloons, if any monster that is weak to arrows, means that they're immune to Quake. So even though they don't look like they're floating, they are floating, and boy, exploding balloons. Well, Mystic Speed, not a huge deal at this stage. You'll pick some up later, but yeah. that's can't Quake everything.
Yeah, which reminds me of one of my favorite amusing facts about this game. Do you would anyone in chat believe that Mylon Z floats? Of course, this was done to make Mylon Z immune to Quake specifically. The sprite doesn't reflect it at all, but you would expect that the Fiend of Earth would be immune to Quake. That's in the vanilla game. It's not normally a spell you would expect to have access to at that time, but given enough extremely patient grinding, you can in principle get Quake on Palom at that point in the vanilla game.
Yeah, it's. I saw it once and like, why? Why didn't it hit? You know, it's that moment of it happened, and it's happened to. Every runner has happened to one side. It's not.
Yep.
It's not a new thing. It happens. A lot of A lot of Final Fantasy IV random facts that happen when you see it happen. It's like, oh, okay, it won't happen again.
It's like being surprised by, say, Demas absorbs Medio just due to being, just due to that holy absorption.
Yeah, you don't get that. You don't see nothing of the sort that early in the vanilla game. So it's like, so when you actually, it's like, hey, it's cool. Like I can do some cool thing. Oh wait, wow,
yeah.
What happened?
You get a lot of situations in Free Enterprise that never come up in the vanilla game just because no reasonable player is ever going to have access to those things at that point of the game. Side Marshal is through the Alt Gauntlet at this point, and is now in the Dark Imps fight. We're probably going to see a lot of Quakes come out here, because those are going to be the most effective way that Side Marshal has access to be able to deal with them. We do see the rare Blitz cast from Edge as well, which would have been picked up just before this fight.
I know Edge is useful early, but his magic requires some, like, I think the skulls when you fight the chests, they're extra weak to fire, which makes Edge look like some sort of godly character. But his magic, it's good if they're actually weak to the elements. They're strong. I mean, Blitz's strong spell. It's just not in this context. It looks kind of not as good as Quake Kit. Nowhere near.
It is more damaging than Flame is. It has a higher base power than Flame and a higher base power than Flood as well. But generally speaking, Edge is going to be capable of dealing higher physical damage than you would get from his ninjutsu. There are some niche cases where you can use that, like when you're doing a certain trap chest, where it might turn out to be useful. Like if you need someone very fast to get an AoE spell off, Edge is probably one of the best people to be able to do that. But Side Marshal is through the Dark Imps, is now on his way down to launch the Falcon and get us our first one from the Underground here.
I think I saw a Meteor and a Nuke in like successive sequence. Those are hard words.
Yes, Xenocat, of course, having done more bosses than Side Marshal at the point, now has a Nuke casting Fu. That's going to be a significant spellcasting advantage.
So I think we peaked at the other Mylon on this tower side. So
yeah, that would be Mylon Z, of course, since we've already seen Mylon Friends in Baron Council.
Probably might go do this keyless tower. I mean, it's not has not been unheard of. You do the hook route, peak the boss. Boss is pretty tame, and then the Dr. Luge spot while tanky, not very punchy, but looks like we're just gonna go for the free key item at Fame March.
Yeah, a perfectly reasonable first play under the circumstances. Other things you could do here, you could go to keyless tower. I don't think necessarily very many people are going to do that unless it's a boss you're looking for at the top of the tower, a boss hut seed. You could. So Side Marshal doesn't have the pan in hand. You do not do the rule check earlier in order to do that. But if you do have the pan in hand, you might be inclined to go and turn that in right away. Visit the Self Cave, do the pan bonk, see if you get the key item from that. There's also Dwarf, of course, which is 2 bosses for the key item that is in Dwarf itself. We do have the Warp Glitch on, so that means that, especially with that Fu in hand, although at this point Paladin is also going to have Warp, but you can get a second key item out of that check, which makes it more attractive.
Yeah, when the Warp Glitch is on, getting the additional key item through Warp, you probably use a Fu, Palom. Either way, you getting the extra key item, not having to do Sealed Cave, because we are, and hey, Party Rock.
Yeah, that's the Earth Crystal from the Fame Arch check. So if we're looking for more character checks, Zot would be the place to go now. If we're looking for key item checks, go a variety of places. That's 2 varieties of King in the Fame Arch right now. One that you want to take immediately, and one that you probably don't ever want to take in the form of that Odin.
The runners are fortunate. Free boss at the required spot. So, hey, let's do it.
Yeah. You're always glad to have a this is the King and Queen Evelyn boss fight is it has some special behavior. Their spells are very non-threatening no matter where they are. The fight is effectively completely free. That having been said, like if you've got something obscure like no free on, which fortunately is not on here, and we do have the end save, but that it turns out to not be relevant in this case. But this fight is generally completely free.
Yeah, there are rumors that want to scale this boss magic power, which would make it a little more interesting. But, I don't know. The fire one doesn't scare anyone. It's like Mylon, first version of Mylon all over again.
Yeah.
That doesn't that might not scare him. The fire two, see Ruby at high magic spots, that can be really scary.
Yeah, even so, assuming B-No-Free is not on, they'll only get a total of 3 Fire 2s and 3 Fire 1s off for the rest of the script triggers. Generally, there might be... Well, it's always 3 Fire 2s. The number of Fire 1s you get is dependent on the Queen's speed, for the most part. But still, if you can tank that many spells, it's still easy to take care of. And that is, in addition to it being an objective, is the Rat Tail, which itself is another objective. So, very worth doing that check right now.
I mean, follow your objectives. Sometimes they give you the key item that you need. And I think
speaking of following the objectives, Xenocat is also heading down to the Fey Marsh and will very shortly be finding that free King Queen Evelyn fight.
I think there was some hourglasses from Tomra that would... those are usually nice. Good pretty much for any non-boss bit monsters. Old Gauntlet, Trap Treasure Chests, usually good targets for hourglasses.
Yeah, well, the thing is here, in terms of bosses, we have seen almost all of the bosses that could apply to. We've seen the Baron Guards. We haven't actually defeated the Baron Guards because they're sitting in the Baron basement right now, but that makes that fight free. We've seen the Officer fight on Ordeals. We've seen the Dark Imps on Hook Route. There aren't very many bosses left for safe that we can use those on. If we are interested in taking more trap chests, of course, then those hourglasses will be very useful for that.
I think the only exception for that is the LST, where you have pretty much like a half and half chance, not quite exactly half and half, where some of them are vulnerable to hourglasses, the other not so much. But pretty much hourglasses work practically anywhere, and on your general grind, if you do a King Ryu grind, hourglasses they're like really useful. They just can't live without.
In a pinch, you can even use them for the egg grind in the underground if you really need to do something to get you going. It's not commonly done, but it is certainly possible. Side Marshal is turning in the Rat Tail, and gets the hard required Twin Harp out of the deal. That is actually go mode for Side Marshal right there. Opens up the remaining 2 objectives. Is never going to need to find that pan for goal.
Yeah, the Mount Hob. Well, the Ordeals trip usually pays out. But you have 3 bosses to fight to get the key item. That's not something you'd want to fade, but it was not incentivized. You're not really it's nice to do and good for food. Definitely, you usually want to do it for food, but for the most part, this seed, you don't have a starting Cecil, no Tella. That's why bother? And this is sometimes why you fade things when things go a certain way. Can pay out, and for Scythe it does.
Yeah, this does open up some very interesting possibilities. Zeromus, with this party, and with getting the crystal as early as Side Marshal is going to be getting the crystal, opens up some very interesting possibilities and strategies for the Zeromus fight. Because this isn't a very hard-hitting party at the moment, with the exception of Fu. So we might see the opportunity for our racers to go for the Fu and Friends strategies. We do have Edward in hand. If you were feeling especially spicy, you can go for the pure Eddie strats. I don't think we're going to see anyone do that because that would take significantly longer to fight. But it'll be interesting to see what Side Marshal does after completing this fight.
I'm not sure we've seen Sirens yet to date. But, we do have an edge. Might be able to, if we really needed to, steal some Sirens in lower Babel. But we're getting close to that point. We're trying to nuke ourselves because we want to skip all the kind of script-wise slowdowns. That's quick enough. virus himself, Nuke. It's good enough, and we're on to, hey, that's that music.
Yeah, so with that first fight, cinematic fight out of the way, we are now ready for DJ Spooning B's performance, the highlight of many a music appreciation club seed. So we're going to be quiet for a little bit and let you enjoy the tunes. Enjoy. Who needs to worry about high magic defense in this spot when you've got a Fu who can just nuke your way through things? But yes, Side Marshal is through the Kainatsu fight, picks up the tower key from this check, but that's completely irrelevant because that is Side Marshal's first objective, and Side Marshal now has the crystal, and is officially, in principle, ready to go take on Zeromus. Our party's Side Marshal's party is probably not in a position where he'll actually want to do that yet, but it is a path that is now open right now, for him right now.
Yeah. Probably worth doing some sort of grind to try to get at least 1200 HP first. If not, go all the way. I don't think trying to do a quick key item count. Not quite enough. Not 10 key items. So
yeah, that's 9 key items. We might see a last minute key item pickup just for grinding purposes. We actually, interestingly enough, Side Marshal is electing to go down to pick up chat's, to take over one of our stream's favorite pastimes in Free Enterprise Restreams.
Yes, right. That treasury. And hoping for some decent loot right now. The inventory boss taketh over again because there is the boss that lurks, and it lurks for thee. That's all. So, yep, it should be quick. Try to best efficient use is to ditch anything that you probably won't care. You're not gonna go to shop to sell. You're just gonna pick them all up. Not care.
The only thing we might be looking to purchase at this point would be sirens. We are finding a couple of them in the chests here, interestingly enough. We found a hero room. That's interesting for Rosa. We find a cat claw, which is interesting if you've got a Yang around. In Side Marshal's case, he does not. So, a few interesting pickups in there. I'd say that's Siren out of 10, personally.
I thought for a moment it's really Yang over 10. Like, you got literally a perfect pair of cat claws. So, but I saw a sorcerer robe, nice silent stuff. So you've got pretty much Rose over 10 just as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the looting was necessitated. There wasn't found of anything of real value, and it looks like this quick pickup is just to get Fu all the HP. Having less HP runs the risk of Fu taking a nap in the Z battle, and no one wants that. It's probably not so much the spells. I think you got all the spells you would really need.
Well, Fu with Nuke is pretty much all you need in terms of spells for the fight, unless you want to cast the occasional Cure 4 during that fight. So, just to explain why you would take the extra boss here in terms of Fusoya, modern incarnations of Free Enterprise have what's known as the Fusoya Challenge enabled by default, where Fu starts with 500 hit points and a selection of 6 randomly selected spells, weighted to earlier, less powerful spells. For every boss you fight, up to 14 bosses, Fusoya gains an extra 100 hit points and 3 spells. So until once you hit 14 bosses, Fu is at 900 hit points and has the full selection of spells that he'll ever get. So taking the extra bosses here is just intended to get Fu those extra hit points, and while you do get the extra spells from it, it's not really going to be the focal point thing.
And a reprise of harp music. Enjoy.
It's not often that we get the music interrupted by that crystal pickup, but here we are. Xenocat now has all of the objectives on, or will in a moment upon picking up that tower key. Having taken a few extra bosses already, I believe has Fu at full power already.
Yeah, I mean, Xeno did the Ordeals climb. Scythe is doing that right now, just trying to get fully online. They, so one of you may be wondering. So yeah, you did the harp music playing, but why not leave? And in vanilla, you're not able to leave during that sequence. You have, unless you had push B to jump enable, you cannot actually exit the crystal room. So you could just do whatever you want to do after that. So what Xeno had to do is actually defeat the boss. So this is one of those nuances about vanilla that is what which if you play vanilla, you see that happening. So Xeno knew that and did not leave. Just had to complete the fight in order to leave the crystal room.
Xenocat has found sirens in Dwarf. I'm not sure if that is just a different place that we have to check, or if Xenocat actually checked Dwarf earlier and found the sirens there without us noticing. But it's picking up as many as she can afford for grinding purposes.
Yeah, I mean, the optimal solution, ideally, is since Palom is in the party, is to essentially grind Quake Kid into Noob Kid. And most likely we'll get Rosa and Porum into learning White, so we'll probably end up being a complete mage party type of fight.
Yeah. So Xenocat does have 11 key items at the moment, which will enable that a little bit more. Side Marshal, of course, having just done Ordeals, now also has, if I'm not mistaken, also. Okay, maybe I am mistaken. I thought Side Marshal had 10 key items, but Side Marshal still does not have 10 key items because that Pan is missing.
Yeah, Pan is at Fabul, so trying to look for the 10th key item. Probably will get it. Although Scythe is probably looking for sirens as well. Sirens can be found either in Evelyn Cave or any of the underground shops.
Or on the moon.
Yeah, so that's the kind of the want to look for the option of the grind. Ideally sirens because it's you have money, you want to get your grind now. So buy your grind.
Yeah, it's like assuming that you have the means of killing the eggs/yellow dragons here in the underground with one hit. This is one of the fastest ways per unit time to gain experience for someone looking for that in the end game. So that's probably why it's as common as it is. It's because set up correctly, and it's very quick to get your party up to the levels where you want them to be at. There is a bit of a trade-off here. How much grinding do you want to do before heading into the Zeromus fight? while your fight will take longer, the grinds you need in order to reduce the time of the fight might eventually outweigh the amount of time that you're saving by doing that grind.
I think if probably if you're a newer runner, you probably might consider, hey, I need all the levels, safety first, get the required levels for the important spells, and then go. But as you get more familiar with the game, Fu and Friends or 1200 HP strats might be more appealing.
This is very interesting. Side Marshal is in Nisidia and is reclaiming Edward as a character. I wonder if this means we're going to be seeing Edward strats after all.
That could be something. I mean, we have a curse ring on. So I've picked up the curse ring on our Ordeals, so have the same level of items, not so much the same level of key items. Looks like probably traveling. Oh, look, I guess it is Edward strats.
Ooh, this is very interesting. Yeah, as the name suggests, well, okay, that's not what we're seeing. We're not seeing any efforts to pick up Edward. We're seeing Edward in the anchor spot. So this is more likely to be a Fu and Friends type of setup, or even just a straight Fu setup.
Yeah. So the base idea of Fu and Friends, it's very similar to 1200 strats, just that you have a Fu. Early on, you want to get all your damage from Fu through nuke, and then hope the friends of Fu probably live long enough to survive nerfed Big Bangs, which nerfed Big Bangs you look at trying to reach HP of 1200 or above to survive. Helps having more magic evasion, so wizards like Rosa, Porum, Palom, they were more likely to evade chunks of damage, ideally.
Yeah, the basic concept of 1200 strats is that your party members are strong enough to survive nerfed Big Bangs, and that you deal most of your damage to Zeromus. Well, at least the last 12,000 of Zeromus' initial health pool, entirely by Zeromus' own reflected nukes. Requires star veils, requires some means of getting Zeromus to fire off those counter nukes, which can be the crystal, but is usually a J item of some sort. And 1,200 hit points on your party members. But while we talk about that, Side Marshal is now on his way into the Zeromus fight. And, of course, while Free Enterprise is a randomizer, and we'd like to be able to randomize as much as possible, the Zeromus fight itself is enough of its own thing that we don't really want to move Z elsewhere. So, instead, since we want to do something random for Zeromus, we have a pool of, I believe the number that's being given these days is 560 different appearances for Zeromus during the final fight, which of course leads us to the perennial question that we have to ask at this point during any race. And Deathlike, would you like to ask that question tonight?
Sure. Whose butt are we going to kick tonight? And follow-up questions like, does it have a hat? Does it have a butt?
Is it cute?
Yeah.
Is the hat cute?
All these questions will be answered soon enough, once the crystal does its thing. But interesting enough, Zeno is still doing some grinding. Sometimes safety will guarantee you the victory, but it will not necessarily guarantee you the time. Just as well, the risk of doing 1200 strats. If you fail, you've consumed quite a bit of time, so that might not be able to be made up. So
it's vintage Zeromus. It's Zeromus from NES.
I think I remember something that they like an NES version. It was like one of those non-official, obviously. You could do so much interesting visuals on the NES, and it still looks pretty good.
Yeah. Okay, so Cyber Marshal has exactly 2 characters in this fight with more than 1,200 hit points. One of them is Fu, the other is Edge. That's going to be sufficient for. I mean, it's quite possible to do 1,200 sets with just 2 characters up and live. However, with Fu specifically, Fu can also cast reflected nukes in order to deal additional damage rather than just relying solely on Zeromus' own nukes to deal that damage. The Silk Web comes out both to slow Zeromus and because for the very first Big Bang that Zeromus casts, anytime between the start of the fight and the cast of that Big Bang, casting any spell on Zeromus, and the Silk Web counts for this, will nerf that initial Big Bang. The timing of reduced... Actually, before I get into that, maybe I should explain exactly what nerfing a Big Bang constitutes. So, enemies have set spell power for the most part. Zeromus is a little bit different in that Zeromus will set the spell power of Big Bangs just before, basically a turn before casting that Big Bang. In the case of the opening Big Bang, it just uses the opening spell power. But for the rest of Zeromus' attacks, triggering them will also set Z's overall spell power immediately before casting those spells. So there is a very narrow window of time between when Zeromus shakes and queues up the next action before the next Big Bang, in which you can cast another spell directly on Zeromus to trigger that counter nuke and so reduce the spell power of the upcoming Big Bang. So when you're doing 1,200 stress specifically, since you're throwing as many items as you can in Z to trigger those counter nukes, the timing is trivial because you'll be getting it just by the volume of things you're throwing in Z. But if you've got only 2 people, if you've got Fu casting reflected nukes, it might get a little more iffy.
Yeah, trying to keep everyone alive, and probably Edge is not taking a nap, unfortunately.
We do see that Fu, having had 1,200 hit points just before this Big Bang, still is up and running, but nobody other than Edward is at this point.
It's basically going to be Fu to 1,200 strats. Well, technically it's the Fu, and then till Edward doing the rest. This is what. So it's kind of it's progressive.
Fu and Hidden Edward.
As long as the Bard lives, height strats are still end game viable, well, end boss viable, and they it's more of recognition of the actual battle script Zeromus does. Once you get accustomed to it, then it becomes a lot more palatable to get the proper rhythm, and if one small mistake will it will punish you in time.
Yeah, we saw that most recent Big Bang come out on Side Marshal's side. It was not nerfed. It almost killed Fu. In fact, I'd say it's lucky that it did not kill Fu.
Yeah. So you're kind of counting on it. Sometimes it makes sense, instead of reflecting, is to direct it onto Zeromus. But on the same note, you want to try to avoid triggering the refill. So when Z, I think it was around 20,000 HP, does a refill, hidden refill, you don't see it, but you kind of notice it if there's berserkers in the party. There's like a delay.
Yeah. And
when that delay happens, that's essentially the refill, and looks like.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, that threshold is 14,000 hit points. Reflected spells do not trigger that counter script, and so on Xenocat's side, we see Palom has nuke, we see Forum has white, and they're reflecting those spells off of Fu in order to kill Zeromus. Done properly, these reflect strats can actually be significantly faster than most other strategies.
Yeah, it comes at the cost of the grind to get to that point. So we'll see who lands victorious on this. That the choice to decide forego the grind, just go with the Bard, or go full reflect strats, which will be faster, but the grind will still be time that's required for completion. And I thought there was some thinking done just during that sequence with Sky.
Yeah, this is very precarious, what we're seeing here. That's Fu taking a counter nuke. Survives, and that's the Big Bang coming out with everyone on the field. That is the end for Side Marshal in this fight.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I think there was hoping for a Big Bang and then Edward would be by himself, but I think having Fu interrupted all of
And
that.
that is the end for Xenocat and the end for Zeromus. It was the first place finisher in this race at a final time of 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 51 seconds. GG's to Xenocat.
GG's. I mean, the safety in the grind is you know, in a race can be the difference. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't.
Yeah, well, if you've got a relatively fast grind lined up like that, it can be the right thing to do, as we just saw. And we'll see if we can get Xenocat in here for an interview.
It's a really interesting contrast of strategies, at least implemented. So I mean, seeing a final boss battle with just a bard or a Fu and friends, especially in the upcoming leagues, they might be employed.
Yeah, and in fact, we do see Side Marshal going back and grinding now, having failed at the valiant and attempt at the at Fu and friends, two-person Fu and friends, is now taking the safe approach.
But I think in Skype's case, at least if you're gonna grind, maybe you probably just, if you're gonna try to do it quickly, maybe get to 1200 for at least Rosa, and that might be enough for a safety net. Usually the 1200 strats, you want as many people. Although the only issue is you have committed enough money to Star Veils for every character that's alive for a 1200 strat.
Yeah, and you also need to actually have those party members with 1200 hit points. Those aren't always easy to come by. Like we did see that we did see that Sid in the Bet and Kaifo. Sid is very easy to get to 1200 hit points. Yang is very easy to get to 1200 hit points. Some of the other berserkers like Kane and Cecil, if you find them, are more difficult, but still relatively easy to get to 1200 hit points. But we are joined now by Xenocat, our first place finisher on Restream tonight. GG's.
Thank you.
So, the first thing that I've got for you, on the way through Hook Route, you have a full party. You've got Edge Yang and a party of White Mages and Palom. And Fusoya turns up, and of all the people in that party, you choose to ditch Edge. Is it so? Were you thinking of the reflex strats at that early on in your progress to the seed, or was that motivated by something else?
Oh, I was absolutely thinking reflex strats. I'm like, Valis is gone. I'm gonna keep Yang around as a safety, but like Edge is not. I'm not gonna find anything for Edge. I don't feel like looting. It's T-Pro. The loot is garbage. I'm not gonna find anything useful for Edge. He was great early on, but he's outlived his usefulness, and I'm gonna just run 4 mages to the end of the seed.
And so even with finding that that harp as early as you did, and getting that crystal as early as you did, you still went ahead and got those sirens and ground up for the full reflex strats. Did the thought ever cross your mind of 1200 strats or Fu and friends, especially with Fu in hand, or were you committed to that from the very beginning?
It was a thought, but at that point, it was like, who else would survive past the first Big Bang? Yang? Also, I had 10 key items. The grind was going to be quick. I was like, you know what, I'll just knock out the grind, get all the big spells, let Palom nuke things, and have a grand old time.
Yeah, that certainly makes sense.
That was an interesting choice to do Fabul. Like I think Sky faded Fabul. I think that was the only major difference between you, and that was probably the key item difference for making the grind available.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That was because Fabul had the pan, which let me. I mean, the pan didn't really get me anything directly, but it was real nice to just have.
Yeah, for that matter, you also chose to do Ordeals fairly early on, not a Cecil Insight, not a Tela Insight, and at that point you hadn't even found Fu yet, so what motivated that particular decision?
I needed levels on Palom before I took him anywhere.
Totally fair.
Palom needs levels. I could do Fabul for those levels, or I could do Ordeals. And I felt like doing Ordeals just in case I wanted to fade Fabul. Like, if the pan had showed up somewhere else, I might have faded Fabul.
Well, as it turns out, the pan wasn't Fabul, so in that respect it was the correct choice. But of course, we never needed to end up doing anything with the pan as it is.
Yeah. And I mean, the curse string was very nice on Ordeals, because I was like,
Yes.
well, that solves everything in terms of this party. I can just slap that on anyone, and then I have an anchor. Boom.
Would you feel? I know you got the pass early in the seed, but which would be more worthwhile to you, curse string or pass? It's just thinking about how the seed rolled.
I mean, in the terms of what we got this seed, I think the curse string was more worthwhile. I would say I would rather lose the couple of minutes that it would have taken to walk down the moon and raise the big whale and all that, and be certain in my agility anchoring, than have to go find a new character and hope that they're a proper anchor.
That's a very interesting. I mean, having such what I would consider important. The pass is a nice have, but curse is a really much a bigger nice have for many. It's interesting. It's interesting to way of thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, it ultimately would have depended on who the moon character was, because if the moon character was someone like Sid or Tella or Iridia, then great. I can just take them at base level and anchor with them reasonably well. But if it's someone like Cecil or Kane, or a duplicate of a fast character, then I'm just stuck with not really a great anchor option.
Yeah, it's totally fair. So to just sort of wind things down a little bit. So this is the last race in the Music Appreciation Club, which I'm sure is our resident harp composer, so to speak. You'll be a little bit disappointed to see that go. But what was your favorite part about this club this season? You've been very keen on participating.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fun club. It was cool to see all the different... I really enjoyed just the changing flag sets every week, and how they were always thematic, and it really explored a lot of different options in terms of what Free Enterprise has to offer, while also keeping the theme around, hey, you should probably do the twin harp.
Yeah, we're always glad to hear that on the restream side of things. Definitely, any other questions for Xenocat?
No, I'm good for now. GG's again, as you know.
Yeah, any other last thoughts or comments on either on the seed or the club itself you'd like to share with us?
I mean, my thoughts about the seed are, geez, Scythe Marshal had somewhere to be. Not just 5 out of 6 objectives in under an hour. 6 out of 6 objectives under an hour. Truly ridiculous.
Yeah. It does roll up like that sometimes. GG's once again, Xenocat, and thanks for stopping by, and thanks for the amazing performance tonight.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Good one. Alright, it looks like Side Marshal is in the Zeromus fight once again. Is still in the position of having 2 party members up at this point in time. Is still keen on doing those reflex strats. So maybe less of a grind than we've seen from Xenocat. Is very committed to this 1200 strats.
It's I mean, Rosa, you can clearly has over 1200. So this is, I mean, usually sometimes you want maybe another 60 HP, 1260, because HP leak from Big Bang will kind of eat another 60 HP maximum. So sometimes you need a smaller buffer, just a couple more seconds before, so they don't just take an immediate nap from full Big Bang. So, yeah, I think though trying to get Edward on sync, to just try to make the occasional successful hide, so avoiding the Big Bang, not having to. It's kind of impacting the battle, because there are times where a character turn comes up and you don't necessarily want to do anything useful with it. Just want to parry, and sometimes that interferes with the flow of a battle sequence.
Yeah, we are seeing a very interesting cycle with only Fu alive at this point. Side Marshal is reflecting news, but as we were describing earlier, a direct casted nuke here, which we are probably going to see in just a moment here, will also set up that Big Bang nerf that we'll need for Fu in order to survive this next nuke. The next Big Bang, rather.
Yeah, the sequence of the shake, then the spell change, and then Big Bang. Those each action is its own turn. In this instance, the timing can be tricky. So it can sometimes it's not. Sometimes when you get the Big Bang, it's like you may be surprised. Hey, why am I getting full Big Bang? Well, the attempt to nerf may not go as expected. So.
Yeah, well, in that case, we did see the nerf go off successfully. I do suspect that the direct cast of nuke there would have also gotten the nerf off, but instead elected to throw the crystal again, which is one of the things that can set that off.
Yeah, there's also some J items that don't do any damage. Usually, any of the healing items. Ideally you do not want to use the heal item because it resets the speed, from effects on the silk web. So I think you want to use items like soft or cross, or whatever J status healing item as an end.
With that last nuke, Fu, as the last Lunarian standing, has defeated Zeromus on Side Marshal's side, and has finished the race in second place, both on Restream and overall in the race, with a finishing time of 1 hour 15 minutes and 6 seconds. GG's to Side Marshal. Let's see if we can get Side Marshal in here for an interview as well.
Yeah, so I think having the safety net of having another 1200 HP character is the difference in this attempt. Is probably getting Palom might be difficult, getting a Porm might be difficult. But having Edward as the anchor is sufficient. Like, no levels is usually an ideal anchor under most instances.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we didn't get any of the nasty things in the seed, given the flags.
These flags have certainly resulted in some pretty nasty scenarios, and the closest we came to that probably was that Val and Ordeals, turning up in the one spot in Ordeals where Val is not a significant threat.
Yeah, when you get a Val in a spot that doesn't actually, especially in lower HP spots, you're kind of free in the seed, and I think Xenocat has said earlier, when you're free of your mage, you can go all primarily mages, and it's kind of a weight lifted. There's an option on the table.
Well, with that digging in our ears, we are now joined by the club captain and second place finisher on Restream tonight, Side Marshal. GG's.
GG's, thanks.
So, I guess the first question I've got for you, fairly early on in the seed, you went up Hobbs, you saw Yang facing off with Plague there, and chose not to take Yang at that point. You had a slot in the party at that point. Why not go through with that?
Yang's okay, but I don't know. I figured I would be getting some key items, and I did get some key items. That gave me some character checks, and really I didn't feel like carrying Yang because he's not, like, I don't know, I like smaller parties so that my good characters can get more turns, so I don't have to continually parry with the characters who don't do damage.
Yeah, totally fair. Especially if with VN safe on, if someone like Golbez turns up fairly early, you're going to be glad that you've got fewer party members.
Yeah, exactly.
You had faded Fabul altogether, and was it intentional? You did not want to just double dip Fabul at all? Was that the thinking?
Yeah, I tend not to. I tend to fade Fabul because I like the double like. I like the get more of the things in one go type deal. Sometimes like if my party isn't very strong or whatever, then I'll whatever. But um, like if it weren't first hook, then maybe I'd want to do it. But I got the hook, and so I know I'm not going to find a magma key at Fabul, and so I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, like if the pan turns up somewhere else, then you'll feel good of not having gone there when you did. As it turns out, the pan actually was from the Fabul defense, so you wouldn't need to go there anyway if you had needed to go there. But so you actually were in Cape Magnes a little bit earlier than Xenocat was. You without the pan in hand, you still managed to get 5 objectives on the board first. So. With Fu in hand and with the party that you had there, you of course spent a little bit of time getting Fu up to full power, and after that, having found sirens in Dwarf Castle, you chose to attempt Fu in strats rather than possibly spending the time to get some sirens and grind your party up. And what made you make that decision?
I could have grinded. It probably would have been safer. What did Xenocat do?
Xenocat bought sirens and grinded.
Of course they did. Yeah, because that's the smart play.
Yeah.
I decided I would do Fu and Friends because I do Fu and Friends. It's fine.
Yeah. Well, Fu and Friends. Xenocat also had, I believe, 11 key items at that point. So
I could have gone. Yeah, I could have done. Like there were multiple places I could have got 2 key item checks. Could have done Dwarf Castle for 2 checks because Warp Glitch is on. Could have done. I could have primed Shield 1 and then done Fabul for 2 key item checks. I could have grinded. I decided not to because
sometimes it's more fun that way as it is.
Yeah, and I do stupid things on restream. So.
I can appreciate that sentiment.
In the Z fight, so it was I know Edward was the anchor, but was he like kind of like the fallback plan if Fu fell? Was that the plan?
Yeah, I think there's just enough time, maybe, to get Edward in, and then use a life potion during the whatchamacallit, like. So after after Zeromus casts Virus, I think there's this period where I guess it's Virus and then Black Hole and then like nothing for a bunch of turns. And so I was thinking, oh well, there's almost a little chance, but also it'd be funny to keep level 5 Edward alive at the end of Music Appreciation Club, sort of thematic.
And on that note, I do believe this is the last race of the season for the Music Appreciation Club. How have you enjoyed running this club? Any particular highlights stand out for you over the club season?
So I don't know. I guess parts of running the club were fun. The fun flag sets. I know like some people would say, yeah, I like this flag set. Some people would say, oh, I don't like this flag set. But in general, there were slightly more positive reviews for my choices than fewer, so that was nice.
Some people out there will prefer to fade the harp as it is, but
notably, Harumph did not race in any.
Not naming any names here,
but Harumph did restream one of the races, and I was like, okay, cool. Thanks, dude.
Are there any plans to continue this club after the tournament?
Nope.
Season 2 maybe? Nope.
Nope, club's done. I mean, I say that. I'm not going to run the club again. If someone else would like to run Season 2 of Music Appreciation Club, they have, I can make available all of my documentation because really it's just the Google Doc that I have linked in the Discord and some text pad documents, the YAML that I created, and then a slightly different Google Doc, which was my, like, hey, Alchemy, this is the club I want to run document. So if someone else wants to do it, that's cool, but I won't be.
Well, I'm sure there's enough harp appreciators out there that we might see another attempt at that after the tournament season. Deathlike, do you have any other questions for Scythe Marshall tonight?
No, I'm good. GG's again, Seth. I mean, having harp mandatory each seat is a lot. Just enjoyable. Just I like the harp, so I can't.
Yeah.
So
That
yeah,
that was the plan because it's I know some people don't like harp, but I like the harp, and I think it's a good sort of showcase for the game, and for the creative endeavors that um, that many of our community members engage in. So I guess at this point I should probably do some shout outs. So um, shout outs to Boardface, who did some of the original, like importing of MIDI files and deciding this was a good thing to do, and then Calm Lamity and Xenocat for being the bearers of the harp tool, as it were, and putting in all sorts of really cool songs. Also, shout outs to Scala Kitty for putting together the community club, like music appreciation club layout that we saw every restream.
That we're seeing right now, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. Well, there's that one, but then there's the actual like damn scene.
Actually, there's the actual stream.
Or Kaipo. I guess it's Kaipo at night. I think it's Kaipo at night. We decided.
Yeah.
Z did a really good job on that. Other shout outs, yeah, just the Restream crew for putting together restreams for this club. I hope everyone enjoyed watching the races. Most of the time, I tried to pick the sillier races for or like more I don't know, not sometimes wacky, but more like, oh, this is fun to watch races for Restream. So I hope that turned out okay.
Yeah, well, I'm sure our viewers appreciate harp whenever it comes up. Either way.
Yeah, that too. And then tonight, thanks to Deathlake and Esgrunt for comms. Sure, it was great. Thanks to Ribbon Quest for doing tracking. I think if I remember correctly, week 1 of this club was Ribbon Quest's first race of Free Enterprise. So I'm glad she stuck around. Liked it enough to stick around. And thanks to Neon for doing the restream. They are awesome. So with that, I guess that's it for me. Thanks a lot, folks. And
yes, thanks for the excellent show tonight, and take care. Okay, so that was Side Marshall, the club captain of the Music Appreciation Club, for which we have just seen the final race. So that brings us to the end of this stream, but don't think that we're done with Free Enterprise for the near future. Tomorrow evening is the season finale of the Pink Puff League Season 3, 8 p.m. right here on Free Enterprise. Friday evening, we'll have the Friday Night Community Race featuring FF4FE Alive, a flag set based on Live Alive. And on Saturday, we'll have the season finale of From the Perspective of at 3 Eastern Time. And of course, starting next week, we will have the Zeromus Zone 5 tournament, Blue Moon and Red Moon, the dual moons, starting up. But for tonight, we are going to be heading over to Just Jordan. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correctly. Who is doing some acings based on the Red Moon flag set for the upcoming tournament. So thank you all for watching tonight, and we hopefully will see you here tomorrow evening. If you're interested in Free Enterprise, by all means, also feel free to stop by the Discord. It's a very wonderful community to be a part of, and you'll be able to get the most up-to-date information about upcoming races or the tournament there. So thank you very much for watching. We will see you next time.
Yep. See you all next seed.